My name is Dr. Susan Lipkins. I'm a psychologist and I've specialized in children and adolescents. I've been in practice for more than 20 years. Over the course of the last few years, I've done extensive research in the area of hazing, and particularly hazing that occurs in high school and college. Hazing is a process. A new person who wants to join a group that's already existing has to do certain activities in order to be accepted by that group. The kinds of hazings that are happening today are often involve acts which are humiliating, degrading, physically harmful, and sometimes end in serious psychological damage and even death. It's in high school that kids are learning the blueprint of how to haze. There are three kinds of positions or roles that are played. There's the victim, which are usually the new people in the group. They're the bystanders. Those are kids who've been there, who've been victims themselves, and who've watched it and will continue to watch it, but they don't actively participate. And then they're the perpetrators. Those are usually the senior members of the group. They're planning the hazing activities. And they have had most of this done to themselves, and now they want to tweak it and add their own little footprint or handprint to it. And by doing this, there's now a tradition. Kids from honor societies, kids from Ivy League universities, people who are lawyers, doctors, and Indian chiefs have all hazed, and they've all been hazed. Like the perfect storm in nature, certain conditions have to occur simultaneously in order to have that perfect storm that happens very rarely. I believe the same thing happens with the hazardous hazing. There are many hazings that occur every day throughout the world, but why do some of them become hazardous? And there are many factors that, when combined, will create a situation so that it just simply skids out of control. Some of the factors that are involved in hazardous hazing involve the fact that there's no adult supervision, or that the kids perceive that there is a lack of supervision, that there's a time and a place, that there's a repetition of a tradition or an initiation rite. But perhaps most importantly, and the one that I think parents are most involved in and have the most ability to change, is their own attitude towards authority figures. For example, when your child is 8 or 9 and playing in Little League, and the coach is out of control, playing his son and treating everybody not too nicely, most parents are afraid to talk back to the coach because they're afraid that their child will be benched, won't be chosen for the travel team, or in some way will suffer the effects of the complaint. So frequently you will see the parents muttering to themselves, and you will see the kids complaining, "That's not fair," and the parents will agree with the child, "That was not fair," but nobody is willing to stand up to that coach. The same thing occurs with the high school coach. In many communities where sports are very important, the high school coach has more status than even the principal. The principal, the school, the superintendent, and all the parents are afraid to question the coach because they believe that their child won't be chosen, their child won't be played, their child won't get into the better team. So we're teaching the child not to question the authority figure. Now, when that authority figure moves from the coach to the captain, when it moves from the playing field to the locker room, and that captain does or says anything to the younger players, those players have been taught not to question, to just take it. If a child is in part of an organization, part of a club, part of a church group, an athletic team, a band, a sorority, a fraternity, the military, all these kinds of groups have hazing as part and parcel of what they do. Nobody's been telling the children about it. In fact, I think many parents have been saying, "Oh, I was hazed, it's not a big deal." Other people say, "Oh, boys will be boys," and they really expect it. And if we're teaching our children to expect it, then what we're thinking is it's not going to be so bad, it's what happened to us and we can survive. I don't know that we can ever stop hazing. I think that what I'm trying to do is to try to prevent hazardous hazing, to alert people, particularly parents, teachers, and coaches, to the fact that they have the ability and the power to change things. The example that I like to give is what happened in 9/11. There was that plane that was headed for the Capitol. The bystanders, which were the passengers, obviously discovered that the terrorists or the perpetrators were about to do something quite evil. They chose to overcome the perpetrators. Somehow, without any defense, I'm quite sure, they grouped themselves together and they overcame the terrorists, and the plane, as we all know, went down in Pennsylvania instead of the Capitol. That's the kind of power that bystanders have. And if we teach our children about these group dynamics, then they too will be able to use that kind of power to protect themselves.